Hey everyone, and welcome to the third and final video of Fabulous Files. In the previous video, we touched a little bit on pixel size and how it affects the size of your image, and in this video, we're going to go a bit more in depth. Another way of looking at pixels is like looking at a grid. An 8x8 grid will hold less information than a 16x16 grid. The same idea can be used with pixels. The more pixels there are, the more information or detail your image has. However, as we also talked about in the last video, pixels affect the overall size of your image, which can in turn affect your file size. Now, why is file size important? Why did I bring that up? File size is important because large files can take up a lot of space on your computer and on other places, like your website. Have you ever gone on a website where it seemed to take forever to load? According to macmetrics.com, on average, it takes about 1.28 seconds for a website page to start responding, meaning that when someone clicks on the website, they should see something happening or loading in those first 1.28 seconds. It takes about 10 seconds on average for the whole page to load fully. The key is to make it so that it's quicker. Otherwise, people lose interest and they click on something else. When your website page loads, it's taking all of the information that you've stored on it and sends that information to someone else's screen. That means all of your photos, videos, written content, and other elements that you have on your website need to travel all the way to someone else's device. One way that makes this process a lot slower is having large image files. High quality images are great, but that also means that they have a pretty big file size. For instance, this image right here is 6,000 by 4,000 pixels, and it's 4.7 megabytes. To put that in perspective, most websites only contain about 1.96 megabytes of information total. So having only one image take up that much space will slow down your website because it'll take longer to send that image. Which brings us back to pixels and how they relate. The more pixels an image has, the larger the file size is going to be because it has that much more information stored in it. So, how do we make the file size smaller? There's a few ways to do this. You can export it as a different file type, or you can change the image size. By changing the pixel size of the image, you can also change the amount of information or detail that the image has. And there's a couple ways you can do this too. Some computers allow you to open the image in a preview program such as Photos on Mac or PC. From there, you can export the image or change the file size in that program. Another way to do it is to use a specific program for image optimization, such as tinypng.com, Optimizilla, or Pixlr. Depending on your file type, you can also export your image as a different file type to reduce the file size. If you have any type of file other than a JPEG, you can export it as a JPEG, and that can also reduce the file size. Pixlr is another good way of reducing your file size. When you save your image, you can choose the JPEG option and change the quality of your image, which in turn changes the file size. One thing to keep in mind, like we talked about previously, is that this will also affect the overall size of your image. So you need to keep in mind where this image is going to be shown. Like we've also touched on before, pixels can be converted to other sizes. This is why it's important to know your target screen size. By making images a predetermined size, you can reduce the probability of making an image that's too large in size. For instance, if I'm putting an image onto my website, it doesn't need to be very large. It just needs to be large enough to show on a typical screen size. So, if my screen size is 15 inches, the only reason that my image would also need to be 15 inches is if the image is going to take up the entire screen. If it's not taking up the entire screen, then it doesn't need to be as large as the screen. This is where the term pixel perfect comes into play. It's the idea of knowing the pixel size of your screen and your website and creating images to fit within that size. So if my website is only 980 pixels wide, then my images don't need to go past that amount. It's like fitting together a puzzle. You have your layout, which is a determined size, and then you figure out what all the block sizes need to be, and you make your image that size in pixels. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching Fabulous Files. If you're interested in downloading the social media cheat sheet that lists all the different pixel sizes for social media photos, go ahead and sign up for the COVID-19 support program for free by visiting our website. And you'll not only be able to receive early access to all of our future bite-sized trainings, but you'll also get our client resources, including the cheat sheet. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Happy designing!